You know, when I was younger, I always wanted to be a U.S. Senator. And I wanted to be the baddest drummer in the world. I just wanted to be that, man, because I dug playing. I dug playing my drums, and I wanted to be the baddest drummer, like Art Blakey or Max Roach or Billy Cobham. Those were my cats, and I wanted to do that. And I also wanted to be a U.S. Senator. I just wanted to be a U.S. Senator. I thought that would be cool. I would see Senator Brooks, and I knew about Adam Clayton Powell. He's a congressman, but that's the direction I wanted to go. I was sworn in 2002, and this is 2017 now, so let's say 15 years. I've been a Cleveland City Councilman for Ward 9, the Glenville community, and I've had a lot of fun, and I've written a lot of policy, which I'm very, very proud of. Well, the residents started talking with me about running for council. The person that I I was blessed to defeat didn't live in our neighborhood. And I was very, very active in the community. I did job fairs in the community. Everywhere you look around, because my nickname was Kevin Conwell, the Jobs Man. And I would do these job fairs at the Glenville YMCA, at Martin Poor Center, at Glenville Recreation Center, at the Cleveland Call and Post, and at Corey United Methodist Church. I would bring in companies like Frito-Lay, Lincoln Electric, Dirt Devil, and the list would go on and on and on and on. I would sit down and try to help put people to work. And after that, I had another group also named Fathers and Families Together. And I would recruit dads and put them to work and teach dads to take care of their kids. And so I was just very, very active in the community. And it took me close to 2 decades before we pushed in that direction for me to eventually run for Cleveland City Council. When I ran, I had a track record. I ran on success as the jobs man, and I was honored National Father in 2001. After being honored National Father 2001 in Washington, D.C., the residents were like, Kevin, you ready to run for councilman? We want you to be councilman and eventually move up to do other things. So the community pushed me into that direction, and I'm very happy for it. Well, I know I helped Reverend Cavaniss run for councilman. Andrew Wright, I helped him run for council. I was doing street outreach, walking door to door. I helped Councilman Jeff Johnson. I always tell him that. I said, man, when I was in college, I came back and helped you run for city council because he had got appointed to city council. But Councilman Johnson and I were classmates at Kent State University. And I wanted to see a friend of mine win. And after he won city council, I never asked him for anything. I just wanted to see a friend of mine win as council. So, I cut my teeth helping a lot of people run for, and Virgil Brown as well, run for office. And that gave me an up close view about politics, and I didn't know I would be moving in that direction. I think that they should give back to the community first and work in the community. When my wife, County Councilwoman Yvonne Conwell, and I were younger, I met her. She was 8 and I was 12 years old. We were good friends, and we worked feeding people in the Glenville community at Martin Poor Center with a nun named Sister Joseph Therese. And we were working in the neighborhood giving back. And that gave me an up-close view, a genuine concern, and a sensitive ear to work in the community and politics. So before someone run for office, they should have a track record of working in the community. That way the people will get a chance to know them. And then when they go around seeking to run for office later on, if they chose to do that, they they worked in the neighborhood, just like President Barack Obama. He was a community organizer before he ran for state senator, and then eventually the U.S. Senate, and eventually the President of the United States. He worked in the community, and I think all young people should work in the community first, giving back to the community. And then when the residents, the community, they will know, and the community will push them in that direction, just like what happened to me. So to answer your question, they just have to work in the community. Then, you do either councilman or state rep or state senator, then you can ascend and move up to wherever you want to do. Voting is very, very important. People gave their lives for us to vote. I mean, when you look at the 3 civil rights workers down in Mississippi, they left from Chicago. They went to Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi in 1964 to register people to vote. And the Dixiecrats did not want African Americans to vote. So they created all these barriers to stop us from voting, because the power of voting is very, very important. They stopped us from voting, and people died. And Medgar Evers, back in 1964 also, or 63, down in Jackson, Mississippi, he was the field operator for the NAACP. He was pushing African Americans to vote, and he was murdered. He was murdered. So you standing on the shoulders of people that died for our rights to vote, and young people, and people don't even want to vote, and that is so not good. And even Martin Luther King, he fought for us to vote. He marched to shine a light on people not voting in the system, not letting people vote. So when you don't vote, you're saying these other people died for nothing. They died for nothing, and I really don't like that. You should vote, but you should be. I have to tell you this: you should be an educated voter. You should look at what policies that your councilman has implemented. Look at what policies that your state rep and state senator has implemented. A lot of times people will say they haven't done anything, but you haven't researched. So you should research, to study, to try to seek to understand. I mean, that's the first law of nature, to seek to understand. Then you go out to vote, and you're an educated voter. You're not voting against your own interest. Well, voting local, when you look at your councilman, your county council representatives, your state senators, state representatives, the councilman deals with your quality of life issues, dealing with racial profiling, how the police treat you, dealing with other quality of life issues, the garbage picked up. You need to have that. That's important. Safe roads, safe routes, to and from work or whatever. Your councilmen legislate laws for people to live, work, and travel through the city of Cleveland. And we pass ordinance, and your tax dollars, your payroll dollars go into the city coffers. So we're taxing you, and you therefore you should vote. With your state reps and state senators, well, they write laws to dealing with pocketbook issues, as well as how your judges are going to treat you, the judicial process. You go to court and you say, I don't like how this judge treated me. With your state representative and state senator, they write laws dealing with that. They can change the laws. You have to go and you have to talk with them and tell them about it, and be and participate. And they can change the laws on how the police treat you, as well as the you're treated in court. So it's very, very important. Now, at the national level, the president, he appoints the Supreme Court justice. He appoints the judges, federal court judges, and that's a very, very important. You have to vote who's going to be the president of the United States, and they regulate laws how the consumers are going to treat you, how the banks treat you, or they can deregulate, and we can start having more predatory lending dealing with houses. They can deregulate and how the banks treat you as well. So voting is very, very important. Even how your boss treats you. That voting is important. Well, a lot of dollars, as a councilman, goes to the table at the city of Cleveland, and you put together project labor agreements to make sure we're working on the construction sites. I mean, I do that even as the councilman. We had a natural history museum, and when I passed by, I didn't see any African Americans working there. So I called a meeting with me and Norman Edwards and Evelyn Gates at the Natural History Museum, and I told her you have to have some African Americans there working. I mean, I'm passing policy, laws, easement laws, zoning laws, whatever, for the Natural History Museum, but you're not hiring any African Americans. And they're passing by and they see that. So, you got to believe in the power of work to put people to work. It's therapeutic. So that your residents have to see you fighting for them, putting them to work. So when you see cranes in the skies, you have to make sure that African Americans are working, whatever the case may be, as well as women working, because they're underrepresented. And you have sexual discrimination that women, if they're not working, then when they get older, also when they're older, they it's easier for them to live in a life of poverty because they weren't working when they were younger. Okay, so you got to fight for your people to put them to work and try to keep money into the city of Cleveland. It's good with the economy, with the circular economy. If people are working, then they can take care of their families, and poverty comes out of the family. So they can take care of their families, and they keep the families together also when they're working. So when things go through the table, projects go to through the table at City Council, I know that I fight for that. And let me say this also. When you mentioned jobs, I remember when they were building Patrick Henry. I think it was in 2008, and there was no African Americans working there. So I got together with 100 guys, and we ran the construction workers off that site, and we made sure that we told them, don't build a school here. Do not build Patrick Henry. If you cannot hire African Americans and females, we don't want the school to be built. And so we protest, we locked it down, and we said you got to do that. And they worked with us, and they made sure that African Americans and females were working there. But your representatives have to fight for you, and the residents have to look and read to see who's fighting for them, and that's very important. I've been blessed with a lot of things. We go back because it's a whole series. You know what? Before I became a Cleveland City Council member, pushing the fatherhood initiative was very, very rewarding for me. Getting dads to take care of their children. 3/4 of the head of the household in my neighborhood is headed by females, and I would go out to recruit. I mean, actually walk the streets, went out fishing to recruit dads and talk with fathers about the best thing that a father can do is respect his children's mother. And I would work with the dads to stabilize them into jobs, as I mentioned earlier. And then when the guys get jobs like at Frito-Lay or Lincoln Electric, to see them with their children, and then we would do outings together at the at Cedar Point or to the zoo or to the circus, or we did Dads for Donuts or at the schools, and that was some rewarding stuff, man. To teach manhood and fatherhood, because manhood is very, very important to me, and that's all the fatherhood movement is about, manhood. So that's rewarding there. The other piece I like is when we protest Cleveland Clinic, and we fought them against dealing with healthcare inequality, because they were looking to close down Harriman Hospital. We caught the attention of University Hospital, and now we have the trauma center there. There's a trauma center there, and I think that if we hadn't been out there fighting, we wouldn't have the trauma center at University Hospital. And then I love to write policy as well. Writing policy is like writing music to me. I mentioned music. I play out for free at different events, so that like for example, I would play for the Cancer Society or whatever, and our band would not charge a penny, and then they take the money and they use it toward the goodness of what they're doing. or we would go to the senior citizen homes to play, and the senior citizens are so happy to see the band there, and we never charge. We go in there and play, which is very, very good. And you know, I really dig playing a poly musician, so that balances me. And I love playing my vibraphones also. Some people see me on drums. I love doing that. Writing music is just like writing legislation for me. It's a direct correlation there. I love to write policy. I know my wife and I wrote the anti-Senate Bill 5 legislation. That legislation helped police workers and city workers and state workers throughout the state of Ohio to so they can keep their jobs, respect their job, with meaningful jobs, with meaningful benefits. Writing policy, I wrote Code Red, which is really reverse 911. That's the city of Cleveland calling all residents. We can reach you through email, fax machine, pager, cell phone to let you know in case there's an attack. A lot of politicians don't, they just don't write policy, but I love writing policy. The 311 piece, I wrote that policy, as well as the nuisance abatement law. Was a good piece of policy that I was able to implement. And I can go on and talking about policy. I'm working on smart city policies right now, how to coordinate the different departments and make them more efficient, and not just hiring workers, but to make the departments more efficient so that we can save tax people dollars or tax residents dollars. So I'm working on smart city legislation right now. And I just finished writing the carbon monoxide legislation, making it mandatory for carbon monoxide to be in our rental houses. So man, I really dig doing that kind of stuff. I say dig because I'm in my musician mode. Well, faith is non-negotiable, and you shouldn't step away from that principles, because you learn principles of life, like the principles of Christ. I mean, you can't just say and turn it off. You have to. Principles are changeless, so you take your principles with you, and you can't compromise your principles. So the Christian principles is on and on and on and on. Even with your family, your children watch you. If you taught them the principles of Christ, the principles of faith, it need to be continued. It's non-negotiable. Walking the street, talking with the residents, doing street outreach, knocking on the doors. Matter of fact, I did that earlier today, being February the 5th. We were out there for some hours. What were we pushing? Neighbors to Neighbors event that we're going to have on February the 9th. And we also have some flyers to tell people about the food pantry, the free food giveaway. So when you walk out there and you give information to the people, you know, what they say about politicians, a lot of them, you know, they're knocking on your door around election time. You can't find them until it's election time. But I mean, I walk my ward twice a month in the neighborhood, and then I write down quality of life issues to turn it into the city, to make sure that's taken care of also. And the residents see you in the community always walking, and which is very, very important. So I like doing street outreach walking. If I'm not doing that, then I ride the neighborhood writing down, are the street lights out, what grass need to be cut, open, vacant, vandalized houses, what homes need to be raised or torn down. Although it take a while, because it costs $10,000 per house to be raised. And some people, well, Councilman, why won't you tear that house down or this house down? But at the same time, you have to, you have a budget. And at the same time, people are pulling on you because they live in shelter poverty also. And the people are saying, well, Councilman, I need my roof fixed, I need my gutters fixed, I need my porch to be repaired. Can you do my windows? And it comes out the same pot. At the same time, some people saying tear a house down. So it's all come out the same budget. You know, so you wish you can do all of that at once, but you have limited resources. Let me say this. One thing, my wife and I are blessed. County Councilman Kevin Conwell and I, we did the Senate Bill 5 piece I mentioned earlier, so we can come together to do that. She'll do the county. She executed it. She implemented it, Senate Bill 5 in the county, and I implemented it in the city, and then they used it throughout the whole state. So we're blessed to be able to do that together, and we're working on the smart city piece right now. So I'm doing the smart cities, and she's looking at how can she do the smart county, so we can do it for the bigger the whole. The other people who I look at, man, I love Adam Clayton Powell. He was a fighter. He protested. He wrote a lot of policy. He was a policy wonk. He wrote a lot of policy dealing with poverty. Adam Clayton Powell was a great congressman. Lou Stokes. Lou Stokes was just such a great congressional person. He got things done. He executed well. President Barack Obama, although Congress, we mentioned voting, when the people didn't get out there to vote, and the Republicans took over the House, when they took over the House, it made it difficult for him to get a lot of his policies implemented. But he was a good role model, good leader in the community. So you have President Barack Obama as well. You know what? The main thing is to keep working and stay out there, stay the course, and write policy. Stay close with your people. Continue education, studying, and then the chips fall where the chips may fall. Maybe congressman, maybe mayor, whatever the case may be. But if you out there working in the community, just like I mentioned earlier, before I ran for councilman, the residents in the community, people say, Councilman, I'm so used to hearing Councilman. They say, Kevin, you know what, we need you to run for councilman. So the people will push you, and you will know where you're going to be, and that's the way your energy will compel you to be, and it will push you in that direction, whatever direction. It could be congressman, senator, which I would love to be a senator, or a mayor, whatever the case may be. The energy will push you out there in that direction.
Well, Councilman Conwell, thank you so much for allowing me the time to interview you. I consider it a privilege, and I thank you for taking the time out of your day for this.
Thank you very, very much. Take care.